And let's begin by telling you that outgoing African Development Bank President Hurumi Adesina has come under fire for his recent comments on Nigeria's post-independence development. Now, presidential aide Bayo Onanuga criticized Adesina's claims that Nigerians are worse off today than in 1960, calling it, quote, based on figures that do not align with available data, end quote. Now, in a post on X, formerly Twitter, on Monday, Onanuga challenged Adesina's comparison of GDP per capita between 1960 and 2025, describing it as both flawed and misleading. He cited data indicating that Nigeria's GDP in 1960 stood at $4.2 billion with a population of 44.9 million people, putting per capita income at just $93. Onanuga also noted that significant economic growth only began in the 1970s, largely driven by oil revenue. And now to discuss this, we're joined by economic analyst Olusegun Okundagnadi. Mr. Olusegun, thanks so much for joining us. Let's just get started, shall we? The president of the African Development Bank, AFDB, that's Dr. Hurumi Adesina, has raised alarm over Nigeria's deteriorating economic situation, stating that the average Nigerian is now worse off than they were at the time of independence in 1960. Do you agree? Let's start there.
Okay, thank you very much. Good afternoon, and good afternoon to all our viewers across the globe. What Hurumi is stating to a lot of people, even though we're not there in the 60s, we're red, but I think we can claim that we're there in the 70s and the early 80s. And when you look at certain parameters that speaks to the the reason governance are still to security lives and
we seem to be having issues with your network connectivity. We'll try to bring this conversation back on Mr. Olusegun Okunude, I beg your pardon. We're having issues with his connectivity. We'll switch gears now as the president of the Dangote Group, Aliko Dangote, says he is still battling to secure the future of his $20 billion refinery, stressing that the fight is not yet finished. Speaking at an investor forum, Dangote expressed confidence in eventually overcoming the challenges, reaffirming his commitment to see the right refinery succeed. Now, he accused certain individuals whom he claimed had profited significantly from government subsidy, or rather government-subsidized fuel imports, of working to sabotage his refinery project. Now, Dangote also alleged that the same group is funding opposition to President Bola Tinubu's removal of fuel subsidies and actively resisting efforts to boost local refining capacity in Nigeria. I think we have our economics analyst, Mr. Olusegun, back on. Are you stable? Is your network better now? Can you hear me?
Yeah, thank you very much. It's part of the things that we're saying. I know the presidency will say, are we enjoying this in the 1960s? But I was trying to affirm something. There are basic things expected of the government as entrenched in our constitution. One of it speaks to security of lives and property, and the other aspect is the welfare of every citizen of the country. And when you speak to the welfare of the citizen, let me take cardinally things that speak to education. A lot of us are beneficiary of the free education on the part of the government while we were growing up in the early 80s. And I grew up in Lagos. I was born and brought up in Lagos. And we can give credence to what Jack Conde did. I'm not even referring to what our fathers and forefathers did when it came when you want to speak to education. But what is the status of things as per the public schools that we have in the populace now? Can we compare it? It's more of private schools, and people pay through their nose to actually have that. When you go to the health sector, I'm still speaking to the welfare of an average citizen. When you go to the health sector, we have primary health center. How many of them can we speak to it that is very much functional as we speak? I read and I saw our fathers, when you speak to economy, when you graduate from school those days, you have all the people that are talking. inclusive of the special advisor to Mr. President. I'm sure he benefited from coming out as a school start holder and having access to vehicles to go around. There is this vehicle they call Ijapa, Volkswagen product Dane that a lot of them have access to. They can afford to buy new 504, buy new vehicles. How much of it can we speak to as we speak currently? So when somebody is speaking to the fact, what was the value of Naira to dollars before now? What is the comparison now? What is the cost of petroleum product? How many, in the 60s that he was talking about to 70s, we had about 4 refineries working in this country. What is the state? How many have been added to what we have now? Not even talking of Dangote coming to rescue us, and several people are frustrating them. I think each time we need to speak to some of these things, we should speak not on politicizing everything on the fact. I can tell you an average Ghanaian cannot even boast of having a living. A minimum wage was increased by this administration, and I will ask you, how many of them are actually can the minimum wage take home? Logistics has taken a lot of it. We can't even have access. During those periods, what do you speak to electricity? I'm sure they will put up a defense to say, what was the population then? But I bring forth to say, as we are growing in population, what is actually the focus of the government to grow the kilowatts that is actually the megawatt that's actually being consumed? So if you ask me, Akinwumi is not far from telling us the reality, because average graduate compared to those years that they were referring to, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, when we can compete favorably. I was just discussing with someone that will travel locally here now. I'm sure you know the amount it will take. I had a return trip one way, and you're spending about 300,000 just for a one-way ticket. Is that what it used to be? Where is our national carrier that we used to have in those years? There are a lot of things. I think what they should be speaking to is that, can we do something better to leave a legacy that after our regime, people can see us revert back to what it used to be as the giant of Africa, which we claim to be. But if you speak to
Mr.
what Akinwumi has said, I think we are far from what it used to be in the yesteryears as we speak now.
Mr. Akunade, I mean, some might argue that it's unfair to President Bola Tinubu. I mean, it's just 2 years into the government, and it's still a bit more time for him to achieve all of the benefits or all of the yield of his renewed agenda, renewed hope agenda, or manifesto that he ran on in 2023.
Yeah, my position on that is quite simple. If you look at the way the former president, and a lot of them have always been speaking, this is a strategy of second term to tell you that, why can't we have some impactful policy that can transcend within 4 years and leave the space? Rather than saying that you don't have handful of time, what actually can we pinpoint to? As we speak, we still have security challenges, and every month, we call the security chiefs. We give them marching order. Without them marching anywhere, people are unsafe to travel by road. I'll be able to say, before now, people can go. We know he inherited it, but what are the map or the roadmap that we have that can say that in the last 2 years, these are the achievables that we can speak to as government? People can say that he has tried, but I can tell you, people cannot even survive. And I know a lot of people that speaks in favor of the government will say it's a global problem, but a lot of countries are domesticating some of these things to give their citizens livelihood.
Mr. Okunade, I think this we've lost you there. A bit of a gremlins. Economic analyst Mr. Lucius Onanuga, Okunade, he's back. There we go. Let me just ask you about, because we're pressed for time, we're out of time. Institutional reforms that you think are urgent, because you're saying that 4 years is more than enough to achieve sort of a stability when it comes to our economic environment and making it conducive towards the road for recovery. What are those institutional reforms? Very quickly, because we're pressed for time.
Okay, I will speak to the good one that I give credit to this current administration in terms of the fiscal policy. But you can see the back and forth that has taken more than a year in even establish a position on things that can take us forward. How can we unanimously come together? Because a lot of us believe that if we have this fiscal policy as put together by the committee set up by Mr. President, we can have an enroll into certain development that will start happening. But you discover that despite some of the good moves, you have other people within the same party frustrating the effort at the center because we claim we are practicing federalism. And it speaks to our personal greed. It speaks to the corruption that we have in the system, knowing fully well that if we can have a way through with this particular policy, it's going to enhance a lot of things. And that's why Mr. President must seek for way to have collaboration with the subnationals in such a way that they can move this country forward in an institutional reform and take off corruption that has become an endemic in our system, bringing down a lot of things. If we don't address these basic issues, we go nowhere, and we'll just be regrowing within the same space, thinking we are moving further. But I can tell you for free, a lot of citizens are not really enjoying, governance as we speak, because education is nowhere to be found. Look at the money that is being provided as loan. We are already hearing about corruption. Who are you bringing to justice for misappropriating some of these funds and diverting it, even when they have actually owned up? How many people have actually gone to jail? These are practical things I feel that Mr. President needs to look to, not with Jonathan, but bringing those that are actually found culpable to justice to serve as deterrent to others that might even be considering the idea, knowing well that there is punishment for them to do. On that note, we can move forward as a nation.
Yeah, we need to move forward as well. Mr. Olusegun, I must say thank you for taking out the time to join us. We appreciate you. Economic analyst, Mr. Olusegun, just giving us a bit of insight following the AFDB's outgoing president, Dr. Adesina's remarks that Nigerians are living better off than they did in 1960 than they do in present Nigeria. Let's go on a short break, shall we? When we return, terror group Lakurawa kills 13 hunters in Hurumi Forest, ambush in Sokoto State. We'll tell you all about this just after the break. Join us again. And you're welcome back. Residents of Galandashi Gali local government of Kano State have expressed diverse opinions over the appointment of two Galadiman Kano and the police siege on the residents of the Galadiman located in the area. Now, this is coming barely a few hours after the police vacated the area, paving way for the Galadima Kano Manu Sanusi, backed by the state government-supported Emir Sanusi Lamido II. While some of the residents welcomed Munir Sanusi, others believe the Galadima turbaned by Ado Bayero should have been ushered into the residence by the police. News Central's Emmanuel Bagudu tells us more in this report.
Anguwan Galadanci, Gwale local government area of Kano State, the community hosting the official residence of the Galadiman Kano, a title now controversially held by two persons, Munir Sanusi and Sanusi Ado Bayero. No thanks to the unending emirate crisis that has been on for almost a year now. This building is the bone of contention, as supporters of the two emirs believe that the Galadima turbaned by their favorite emir should occupy the residence.
Sai aka ce za a naɗa wannan, to mun ji daɗin naɗin nan da aka yi masa tun da ɗan uwansa ne ciki ɗaya. Mun gode, mun gode, mun gode, mun gode. Allah ya taya shi riƙo.
Mai girma sarkin Kano Muhammadu Sunusi na biyu ya kawo mana jajirtacce mai son ci gaban mutane, sannan kuma wanda ya san haƙƙin talakawa, yana taimakon mutane 100%. Kuma mun ji daɗi da naɗa wannan Galadima da aka yi, Alhaji Maniru, Ubangiji Allah ya taya shi riƙo.
To ai ka san abu ne wanda gashi nan dai abun ya rufu kaso biyu. To mu dai gaskiya wanda muke baya shine Sunusi Ado Bayero.
yawa ba manar sabida abu ne akan doka wanda gwamnati wanda aka tabbatar magana tana kotu kuma muke bin doka da oda akan wannan muka sani muna tare da nadi da Alhaji Aminu Ado Bayero mai martaba sarkin Kano.
Some of them did not hide their displeasure over the sealing of the residence by the police in the wake of the crisis.
Sai na ga ma'aikata to na ma yi tunanin ko turo su aka yi su ba da tsaro saboda nadin da za a yi, ashe magana sabanin ba haka ba, amma dai a lokacin gaskiya na ji ban ji daɗi ba sosai da sosai.
An hana iyayen mu wuce ga shi ranar Juma'a ce, hanya ce da ake bi a je masallaci amma sun toshe. Bayan Allah tsofaffi da suke biyowa ta hanyar nan ita ce mafi sauki zuwa masallacin Juma'a amma sun toshe. Gaskiya ban ji daɗi ba a cikin raina saboda ba ni ba iyayenmu na gida wayansu sun dawo daga kasuwa ba san da abin mutum da mu ma tun cikin dare muka zo muka gani. Gaskiya abin ya ɗaga mana hankali, mun zata hana abin ne ma za a yi ko yaƙi ko faɗa ake na daba haka ko wani abu.
Wannan abu bai mana daɗi ba, amma sakamakon cewar wani abu ne aka yi shi bisa kuskure da rashin sani, to amma dukkan wannan abin ya farko zai yi ƙarshe, kuma wannan ba shi ne farau ba, abin da ya fi haka ma an yi mana mun jure shi.
Gaskiya yayin da na kai zuwa da daddare na ga 'yan sanda sun shigo zuwa Galadanci sun yi kamfin ɗin gidan Galadima, sun tsaya sun kulla gidan Galadima. So wannan abu gaskiya za a ce wannan abu ni dai a gani na yayi matukar yi min daɗi, saboda me isa ya min daɗi, saboda ina ganin da cewar idan aka naɗa wannan Galadima wanda Sunusi Lamido zai naɗa ga wanda Aminu Ado zai naɗa, to sai in ga kamar idan aka zo kamar za a dan samu wani matsala kamar irin tashin hankali haka, to shi yasa da 'yan sanda suka zo suka kulla gidan sai na ji daɗi a raina.
For now, the two Galadimas of the Kano Emirate will continue to function in their position till the Supreme Court delivers its final verdict on the impasse and the authentic Emir of Kano. In Gwale local government area of Kano State, Emmanuel Bagudu.
And now to security matters. At least 13 hunters are feared dead after suspected Lakurawa terrorists ambushed their seasonal hunting expedition in Hurumi Forest, Talafa ward in Tangaza local government area of Sokoto State. Now, sources say the hunters drawn from communities in Tangaza and Gwadabawa local government areas were attacked between midday and 1 p.m. on Thursday, despite repeated warnings from authorities about the heightened risk of violence in the area. The hunters, armed with Dane guns accompanied by their dogs, reportedly stumbled directly into the terrorist hideout deep in the forest. Meanwhile, suspected Lakurawa fighters launched a separate assault on Magonho village in Tangaza on Friday. That attack was repelled by military forces who recovered stolen livestock. Still on security, over the past decade and a half, Nigeria has grappled with various security issues leading to the destruction of school infrastructure, the closure of schools, and a rise in the number of out-of-school children. In most cases, kidnapped students are either killed or injured, which raises concerns about the presence and effectiveness of security agencies and community stakeholders. Now, in this special report, News Central's correspondent Austin Azu delves into how security stakeholders can partner to address the challenges facing the education sector in Nigeria. Take a look.
Following the kidnapping of over 200 female students from the government girls secondary school in Chibok, Borno State, northern Nigeria, on April 14, 2014, cases of student abductions and assaults on school facilities have escalated across different regions of Nigeria. In light of the escalating security concerns across Nigeria, the Inspector General of Police has introduced a safe school protection squad to be replicated across the 36 states and FCT to secure school facilities and students in Nigeria.
Between 2012 and 2016, more than 600 teachers were killed in attacks, while more than 19,000 were displaced.
Delta State, South Nigeria, witnessed the program's inauguration at the Unity Hall Government House, Asaba, in conjunction with a two-day stakeholders forum focused on enhancing school security in Delta State and training school protection teams.
The security of our school determines the security of our future. Consequently, therefore, they must be protected against all possible threats. In view of the above, I have directed the Commissioner of Police within the zone to engage their various stakeholders in meeting to ensure that the safety of our school is guaranteed.
In his remarks, the State Commissioner of Police Olufemi Abaniwonda stated that the project aims to strengthen security resilience and integrate host communities in protecting education.
As directed by the government of Delta State, all public places should have CCTV camera. This minimal security will assist us to respond to security threats.
The SSG, on behalf of the state governor and other stakeholders, praised the police for initiating the stakeholders forum and revealed how they can ensure the program's success.
The host communities of these schools have crucial roles to play in the area of intelligence gathering, environmental surveillance, and promptly reporting any suspicious activities or persons to the relevant communities.
On behalf of the chairman, we are strongly behind any arrangement geared at protecting our communities. And we want to encourage you and give you the assurance that at any point in time, we are there for you.
In attendance at the event were representatives of service commanders from various sister security agencies, school principals, teachers, secondary and primary students, vigilantes, members of the Nigeria Hunters, Anti-Court, Man of War, members of the civil society groups, members of the National Association of Nigeria Students, among others. In Asaba News Central, Austin, Azu.
Nigeria's justice system has once again come under the spotlight after a 25-year-old man who chooses to go by the name Martins is battling partial paralysis after spending 8 months in a correctional facility without trial. He was accused of stealing a phone that was never found on him and is now facing a deteriorating health condition with no help in sight. News Central's correspondent Sumaya Abubakar brings us this troubling report. Take a look.
He was young, hopeful, and earning a modest income as a security guard, but after an accusation of stealing a phone, his fortunes changed forever, with his life taking a different turn.
He said that he took someone's phone, that the phone fell down on the ground. And the woman said that she saw him when he was picking the phone.
It's very important to state that this phone was never found on Martins. The phone was never found. They never saw the phone. But he was arrested. He spent a week, according to him, in the police station before he was taken to the Suleja correctional facility.
Held in prison for 8 months awaiting trial, Martins developed partial paralysis behind bars as medical checks confirmed. He says he was given only basic care at the correctional center's clinic, which definitely was not enough.
When I get to the city, I will be happy. Nothing happens to me. So with that, this is what start, and I start. No family was to who the clinic is there. Single door, no day there. You will go complete high price and will give you. They may will take.
Me seeing my brother the day they brought him to the court. He was very, very sick. Even I cried off my head that very day.
In response to his deteriorating condition, the center pushed for Martin's case to be heard, leading to the granting of bail. Pro-human rights organization, the Legend Golden Care, criticized the police for poorly investigating Martin's case, blaming them for his prolonged detention.
I've interacted with a lot of brilliant police officers. But some of our police officers, their work is way below par. And why am I saying that? Why would you arrest a young man, lock him up, he's been incarcerated for 8 months without any investigation? You lock him up and you begin to do investigation.
The executive director of the NGO also accused the correctional facility of failing to provide adequate medical care, worsening his health condition during his time in custody.
The problem is not even just that he developed a stroke. He was never taken to hospital, not once.
In response, the controller of the Correctional Service FCT Command denied Martin's claim that he was made to sleep in a toilet, saying that the center did the best it could with its limited resources.
That's not true. He was given maximum attention as an inmate. Along the line, we discovered he has a medical challenge, which within the limitation of the medical facilities we have, we attended to him. Based on the letter we wrote to the judiciary, and the judge himself seeing him, let him go.
He offered an apology to Martins for any perceived mistreatment, insisting that the facility did what it could with limited resources. This, however, according to the NGO, is inadequate as it calls for greater accountability.
I want to appeal to the inmates. If there was anything he suffered, it's not our making. We're very sorry. We did our best. Our best might not be enough, but we did.
I mean, on all levels, it's just wrong that this guy has been dehumanized in such a way. I believe that he deserves compensation.
From a simple accusation with no concrete evidence, Martins has lost more than time. He has lost his health, his job, and part of his dignity. With his trial still pending, his fight for justice is far from over. In Abuja, for News Central, Sumaya Abubakar.
Supporters of detained social media activist Martins Vincent O'Shea, popularly known as a very dark man, have staged a protest in Abuja calling for his release from EFCC custody. The protest began at a GT Bank branch in Area 3 and proceeded to the EFCC headquarters in Jabi and later converged at the National Human Rights Commission in Maitama. The demonstrators described the arrest as unlawful and accused the anti-graft agency of stifling free expression. They also urged the Human Rights Commission to intervene in securing his release. The protesters vowed to sustain the demonstrators until the activist is either released or formally charged in court. Domestic violence in Nigeria cuts across lines of class, religion, and culture, leaving a devastating trail of physical, emotional, and psychological scars. Experts say that it continues to be promoted by a culture of silence, shame, and stigma on victims, as enablers and collaborators are hardly brought to justice. News Central's correspondent Aishat Salihu brings us the story of a survivor, her experiences, and a battle to move on from the scourge.
My ex-husband, 22 years ago, he stabbed me with a knife close to my heart. I could have shown it to you now. I also have a bottle stab at the side of my face here. This place. He smashed my head with a star bottle. The broken pieces remaining in his hand, he stabbed me near my face here. Look at my face, look at my eye. It was a narrow escape. He could have rendered me one-eyed woman.
This is the story of many in Nigeria, as domestic violence has become an all too familiar trend. While it takes several formats and can be categorized as physical, sexual, and emotional forms, some describe it as a pattern of coercive control where one person seeks power over another.
And if you don't resolve it, the other person who has the power, because actually the violence is power play. The one that has the upper hand is going to take charge and believe that dealing with the other person, maybe slapping, punching, pulling of hair, isolation, whatever it is going to make sure that person fears or respects, that is, respects him.
The Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act of 2015 provides a legal framework for the prevention of and protection from violence in Nigeria. It prohibits all forms of violence, including domestic violence, and provides for sanctions against perpetrators.
So, what the agency does is, number one, enlighten the society on the existence of these acts, and then make known to the public the punishment for offenses that are committed. Sometimes you find people saying, oh, I don't know. I don't know, this is an offense. Ignorance in law is not an excuse.
But beyond government agencies, non-governmental organizations play a crucial role in providing support and advocating for change.
Our advice those concerned that are being traumatized that you should take a bold step and walk away instead of them to die in silence. Let them come out of it. And when you come out of it, have something doing. Don't rely on men.
In a society where cultural and religious beliefs often play a significant role, it is important to address the issue from all angles.
Pray before we go in, and when the going gets tough, we also pray and be calm. And when the going becomes threatening, life-threatening, then we quit very, very amicably.
The survivor's journey is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit.
I've decided to hate men. I run away. I've remained single since 2018 because of this man. I don't have a relationship. I don't trust in any man. I am on my own.
Domestic violence thrives in silence. Experts say domestication and implementation of the VAP Act of 2015 across all states in the country, collaboration between government, NGOs, religious institutions, communities, and individuals are measures needed to break the silence, support survivors, and hold perpetrators accountable. In Abuja, for News Central, Aishat Salihu.
You're watching News Now on News Central Television. Coming up, opposition civil society groups decry removal of term limits from Togo's constitution. We'll tell you all about this just after the break. Join us again. Hey, welcome back. Hundreds took to the streets of Lome to protest against recent constitutional changes that effectively allow Fure Danisigbe to remain in power indefinitely. The demonstration followed his swearing in as head of the newly created Council of Ministers, now Togo's highest executive authority. The leader, who has ruled since 2005 and is part of a political dynasty spanning nearly 6 decades, assumed this role under a new parliamentary system introduced last year. Now, opposition figures and civil society groups have condemned the reform as a means to entrench authoritarianism, citing the ruling party's near-total dominance of both Parliament and the Senate.
Il s'agit de mobiliser le peuple togolais contre l'imposture et la forfaiture de l'installation de la 5e République. La majorité des Togolais aujourd'hui n'acceptent pas ce qu'on ne peut pas présenter à l'extérieur. Nous sommes devenus aujourd'hui la risée du monde entier. Dans l'histoire du monde, un peuple n'est jamais couché définitivement. Il arrivera un moment où le peuple togolais se lèvera et dira non à fond, Nyasibé.
And off to Mali, where opposition parties are raising alarm over fears that the ruling military junta may dissolve them following the repeal of the legal framework that guarantees more political pluralism. Now, the decision stems from a junta-led national consultation which recommended the dissolution of political parties and an extension of junta leader Assimi Goita's rule without elections, a process most opposition groups boycotted. Now, despite an ongoing crackdown on dissent, more than 100 political parties have formed a coalition accusing the junta of dismantling democratic institutions. Analysts warn that political freedoms guaranteed under Mali's constitution are increasingly at risk as the junta tightens its grip on power. Fighting was reported Monday in the Democratic Republic of Congo's South Kivu's province, despite ongoing peace talks in Qatar. Eyewitnesses said a group of young civilian volunteers supported by the Congolese army was attacked in the resource-rich mountainous Fizi region by M23 affiliated rebels. This renewed violence comes as President Felix Tshisekedi has agreed to engage in peace talks with the M23 group, with delegations from both sides currently meeting in Doha. Despite joint calls for a ceasefire, clashes persist across North Kivu, South Kivu, and Ituri provinces, with M23 rebels reportedly seizing more villages. Crowds gathered along the mall in central London as the city prepared to mark the 80th anniversary of Victory in Europe Day, which commemorates the end of fighting in Europe during the Second World War. Among those present were families enjoying traditional cream teas and revelers continuing celebrations from the night before. The day's event is set to begin at midday. A military parade and a fly past by the Red Arrows headlined the commemorations. King Charles III, senior members of the royal family, and Prime Minister Keir Starmer were in attendance. The Nigeria State Oil Company, NNPCL, witnessed a leadership shake-up in April with a new board appointed and the former executive reportedly under EFCC investigation. Allegations involving $2.896 billion allocated for refinery rehabilitations and the discovery of a large sum of money linked to a sacked managing director Omono Okonkwo, communications director at Dear Nigeria, stated that Nigeria's economic struggles are compounded by inefficiencies and debt within the NNPCL. Now, she emphasized the urgent need for significant restructuring and the inclusion of technical expertise to boost oil production.
Now, Nigeria, despite being a legacy oil producer, exports crude oil while importing refined fuel due to insufficient refining capacity. Now, this inefficient system has contributed to financial security, the NNPCL acknowledging approximately $6 billion debt last September. Now, prior to this time, the NNPCL has struggled with financial transparency. Despite beginning to publish accounts in the last 5 years, the company's financial situation still remains opaque, at least to everyday Nigerians. Now, they also face operational efficiency with over 5,700 employees.
And that's all we can take at this hour. But before we go, let's take another look at some of the major stories. The presidency has faulted AFDB President Akinwumi Adesina's claim that Nigerians are worse off today than in 1960. Terror group Lakurawa has killed 13 hunters in Hurumi Forest ambush in Sokoto State. We also told you that opposition parties in Mali have raised alarm over fears of dissolution after the repeal of law enabling political pluralism. Now, do remember they can send us your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number now showing on the screen. And while you're at it, make sure to follow us on social media. We're at News Central TV on all social media platforms. You can always watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422. We're now on GoTV. Find us on channel 23. We're also on Star Times channel 374. Find us on Avo TV, or better yet, you can stream us live on YouTube. And thanks for watching. I am Judith, the TV. Bye for now.